With the after credits, it immediately cuts to some bar, and you get Tom Hardy's Venom drinking, and I thought which was a great moment, like him realizing he's in this universe with all these other superheroes and supervillains and everything like that, which I thought was a funny moment.
Part of it, and I guess I haven't seen. I guess in the Let There Be Carnage, I still haven't seen it. I was actually thinking about watching it tonight now because we can rent it. Um, but apparently, there's a scene where they kind of talk about like how Venom like is connected and knows the multiverse. But one of the things I didn't understand when he showed up is everybody that got brought to the universe brought there because they knew Peter Parker, and he didn't. Peter Parker does not exist. Like Spider-Man does not exist in his universe, so he doesn't know Peter Parker. Um, that was the only thing I didn't understand. But again, it may be if Venom,
Yeah,
since
I'm
that
assuming it's his
symbiote knows the
power.
multiverse, maybe
Yeah,
he knows Peter Parker because obviously in other universes, Eddie
yeah.
Brock and
Um,
he's formed with Peter Parker. But I
exactly.
thought it was a cool scene though. It
Yeah,
shows that I think they did it perfectly as well because obviously Spider-Man does not exist in the universe of Venom, but they made it possible. Obviously, Eddie Brock still exists in Spider-Man's universe. So you see him getting up from the table and the symbiote's left behind. One or two things are going to happen. Either he's going to probably seek out Eddie Brock, which could still be Tom Hardy, and just have another. They can keep making Venom movies too. Sony wants to, and then also have Venom in the Marvel universe, and it makes sense.
because they've
Or
set
what
this up, I agree.
exactly, which I think will probably happen. But what I think for the next movie, the coolest thing's going to happen. We're going to get to see that black suit, the symbiote Spider-Man. It wouldn't be much for him for the symbiote to make it to New York. It already knows who Peter Parker is. Peter Parker's in a dark place in his life. I know at the end of the movie, it made him seem like he was kind of okay with everything, but it's going to weigh on him. And he's going to be in a dark place with his aunt dying, no one to talk to, completely alone. Introducing that black suit Spidey would be awesome.
No, I agree. I,
Um,
I think they shaped that up really well. And like you said, you don't. I hope we would get Tom Hardy, but even if we didn't, like you said, you could do whatever you wanted with it. You could even just do Venom. You could have it where that's all you ever see. You don't ever even. You could just have that moment where he takes over. So you know what I mean? Like you don't
yeah.
have to have this full backstory on
Yeah,
Venom at that point.
I don't think they'll do a backstory. And I don't think they're going to do obviously a Venom movie, but I do
No, no, no,
believe it'll
no.
probably be Tom Hardy. He'll probably go back
I
to
would
Eddie
hope.
Brock, which who knows? Eddie Brock originally, I think the movies are based in LA or out west, but I think he's originally from New York. So there's Eddie Brock could be in New York right now with Spider-Man. He could seek out Eddie Brock, and we don't know how this Eddie Brock's going to be. The reason why Ventum is that anti-hero in that universe is because Eddie Brock is good
Mm-hmm.
at his heart, and he just lets Venom do the things that he wants to do in the name of good. But we don't know how this other Eddie Brock's going to be. It could be a villainous Venom, still maybe a slight anti-hero, but at the same time, we don't know what we're dealing with. So I think it'd be cool. Introduce Eddie Brock again,
Yeah, I
and
think
you have no build up for it. You can just do it.
I think you're gonna have some villainous anti-hero. There's gonna be something there because you're gonna have to have Spider-Man and Venom clash at some point. There's gonna be something why they're fighting or whatever, and then it's
Or
gonna be an internal thing as well if he takes over the suit.
or or because I still want to see this. I want to see because this is never really. I want to see a real Carnage fight Spider-Man, and I know they just did Carnage in the Let There Be Carnage, but obviously there was no Spider-Man to fight him. We got the Carnage in Spider-Man 3, I guess. Um, it's
Kind
still
of,
not been there. Yeah, we've not
yeah.
seen a real Venom Spider-Man fight. We've not seen a real Carnage Spider-Man fight, and that could be the perfect way to introduce Carnage. Uh, is by introducing Venom, and you could put
Well,
them both in the same movie,
if
where
we're
you could
gonna,
have that anti-hero. He could be, in my opinion, the Venom could be that villain for half of the movie, and the other half of the movie be Carnage as as they redeem themselves and kind of get that understanding with another hero. Become that anti-hero is what I'm saying.
I haven't watched the movie several times to break it down, but I think the part where Doctor Strange is looking up and the multiverse is cracking and everything, and you're supposed to see like you see silhouettes of what's supposed
Yeah,
to be
you see
certain things.
Scorpion in there and
Mm-hmm.
Rhino. I've seen that. Yeah,
You know what I mean? So you're seeing silhouettes of certain things, and I think that's what's
look like
gonna.
Craven, which
Mm-hmm.
would be awesome.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I think if I didn't break it down obviously, but I think there's something there that's gonna be leading up to what our next stuff is or our next villain is. And
I was in
going
a movie theater, so it's hard to,
sure.
you really got to focus on that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Um and then moving on to just what we think with the next Spider-Man movie, how it's gonna play out. You know, I think you're right with him being alone and everything. There's gonna be a point where he's gonna try and get MJ back. I think you're right with Zendaya is gonna come back as MJ. But if you notice, if she when she's in the shop, she's still wearing the broken Dahlia necklace. I think that's going to
Mhm.
be one of the main points that brings her back, or connects them again, or something like that. You know what I mean? Because if she doesn't know Peter, how would she still remember the necklace and have an emotional attachment to it to wear it every day? Right? I mean, she may not remember it, but I feel like deep down there's still some emotional attachment there that will be their connection back to one another. Um, Ned, I feel like it'll be a Doctor Strange thing because if I wanted to get into this, you know, Doctor Strange said he changed the spell 5 times, right? Or 6 times. Well, Peter only changed it 5 times. Where I think the sixth change was Doctor Strange didn't want to forget Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So I think he put himself in there as well, where he didn't want to forget Spider-Man. And I think he did that again with this new spell. Or some sort of version of like that, where
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
possible. I don't think it matters much with Doctor Strange.
I just think that will be the connection with Doctor Strange, Ned, and Peter, where, I feel like Ned, they didn't
Well,
do
but
all
here,
that for no reason. I feel
yeah,
like Ned's going
but
to
here,
have some type of.
yeah, but here's the thing though. Doctor Strange still remembers Ned. He still remembers fighting with Spider-Man. He just doesn't remember Peter Parker. So Doctor Strange, with or without changing the spell, still knows Ned and still knows he has those powers, right? All that still happened for him. For Ned and MJ, they should still remember fighting and helping Spider-Man. They just don't remember who Spider-Man is.
Yeah, I feel like
That's
this.
where it gets iffy. That's where it
Yeah,
gets
I
weird.
think that's the gray area of it because they're helping Spider Man because it's Peter Parker, right? They're not helping Spider Man because it's Spider Man. It's not that.
But it may be one of those moments where they don't really know why they did it. They just know they did it,
Well, and
and they
that's what
don't
I'm saying.
spend
I
their
think that's going to
memory.
be the gray area of.
But for Doctor Strange though, the reason I don't know if that's, and it could be, I could see that happening, but at the same time, if Peter Parker went to Doctor Strange like, yeah, I'm Spider Man, you did this spell and helped me forget it, and blah blah blah. It ain't like Doctor Strange wouldn't believe him. He'd be like, yeah, that's right.
Oh no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be hard. Doctor Strange is the easiest person to explain it all to,
I
and he would
just
understand all of it. You don't
I
really
think
need
it's
to.
I think it's just more of a connect. I don't think this is going to be like a major point of any part of the movie. I just think it's a connection that they are able to use or make for a movie. You know what I mean? I'm not saying this is going to be a big point of any movie or this is like the next thing. I still think the next movie is Venom, him being in a dark spot because I think if he's going to get MJ back, my idea for the next movie is that wouldn't be till the very end,
The
right?
only thing that I asked, the only thing at all, is I really want them to recreate that dancing scene with Spider Man or with Peter Parker. I think that would be hilarious if he came out and did that
The
after
finger
getting the
gun
suit.
part.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Just as a nod. We even talked about it too. The one thing I think that they missed on the in Spider-Man, they didn't do that.
Yeah,
That
I
meme.
know they
They
should
should have
have.
done the fucking. That would have
They
been
should have done the
hilarious.
meme.
But I get they didn't want to break what you're watching, and who knows how many people would have actually got. Obviously we would have, but maybe not the older fans. But I think that callback in a movie, they have to do it. They have to make them do something stupid like that. um, but yeah, I think that's where this is going. I think it's gonna Venom is the most interesting or one of the most interesting Spider-Man villains. Period. Um, Especially considering what it does to Spider-Man himself. It's the only one that's actually altered Spider-Man, and I think that's really easy to go into in this next movie, especially how they set it up.
I would also love, and this is just from a nerdy cartoon lover back in the day, but I would love a Spider-Man and Friends now that they've have the Daredevil there. The Kingpin is now canon because
Hawkeye.
I
Yeah.
haven't watched Hawkeye either, but I saw that the Kingpin is canon now as well. So bringing him as a villain into the Spider-Man universe would be huge because he was also a big Spider-Man villain, um, especially in the cartoons.
Mhm.
He was probably one of my favorite villains because he just crossed over pretty much every cartoon you were looking at. It was like, oh, who's the villain? Kingpin. Oh, obviously, you know.
Yeah. It
So
makes sense. He's just this big, strong,
yeah,
badass mob boss, and he's kind,
exactly.
rich. Yeah, no, I agree. I think cool thing is too, one of the villains as well that I think we could see is because they made a big deal out of showing that Aunt May worked at Feast
Yeah,
and showing the Feast trucks, and Mr. Negative owns Feast. Which probably is true in this universe as well. So maybe that's a villain we get coming up as well. Which Mr. Negative is a I don't know if you played the well, you haven't played the Spider-Man game, right?
not the new one now.
But obviously he's the main antagonist in that one, and it's I mean he's a great villain. I mean he's a tough villain for Spider-Man, and I think that would be cool to show in a live action movie.
No, I think it's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of ways you can go with these next. I think it's three movies. He signed on for three more movies. So,
Which
um,
in those three movies, that's I believe 100%. They are going to introduce Miles Morales so they can set up the next Spider-Man.
I agree. I was
Yeah.
gonna say like after the end of this, because we already know there's gonna be a new Avengers. They're gonna be setting up the new isn't that what it's called, the new Avengers or something like that. Where I think we will by that time we will have a new Spider-Man.
And one of the things they are setting up too, and if I thought it was cool when they showed it when they had the when it said Mysterio is right or something, and they had the X over the face, but it was drawn with the circle around it for X-Men.
Sure.
As
Oh
the
yeah,
X-Men
yeah, yeah,
logo.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They obviously Marvel has a plan to introduce the X-Men, and when does that happen? Because also another
I
thing that
thought
I've
that was gonna be the
always
end
wanted
credit.
to see with I thought it was too. Of course it was. That's okay. They're setting up a movie, because Doctor Strange's movie comes out next year, so I get that. But um I've always wanted to see in a movie because the comic books and the cartoon seeing Spider-Man and Wolverine together was always hilarious and
Mm-hmm.
it was awesome.
Him with the
And
Fantastic Four was always great as well.
yeah, yeah, even the Fantastic Four was great. Him as Avengers period, but I always loved him. There was two characters that are always great with Spider-Man to me. That was Wolverine and Deadpool.
Sure, yeah.
And
I actually
Marvel
loved
didn't
him
do
with
either of those
Flame
now.
as well, or a Human Torch. Which one is it?
The
Human
Human Torch.
Torch. I always loved him with Human Torch as well, especially in
Mhm.
the cartoons because he was like they
Yeah,
were both like very witty
exactly.
characters.
Yeah, and how he was with the Thing, because both,
True.
yeah, I loved it. I loved it. But they have all that they can set up now, and it's a lot though. It's like how much can you throw into Spider-Man? When do you introduce that? And then all because he signed for three movies doesn't mean he's not going to be in an Avenger. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be in the Fantastic Four. It doesn't mean any of those
Sure.
things, right? So the sky's the limits for Tom Holland. It really depends on how long he wants to continue that role. Do you typecast yourself and stay in Spider-Man role? Which me personally, I would.
I
So
mean, what? He's already about to be shit. It's such a good game. Nathan Drake.
yeah,
He's about to be Nathan Drake of the new Uncharted movie. I don't. He was in that war movie. I don't know if I can't remember the
no,
name of it.
he's been in some good
He's a
movies. There's
good
another movie I
actor.
can't
He's a good
remember
actor.